Licensing Hours Extensions Bill, second reading.
Andrew Ranger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that the bill now be read a second time. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am delighted to have the opportunity to stand before the House today to bring forward a bill that makes an amendment to the Licensing Act 2003 that will support our vibrant hospitality sector and help our communities come together to celebrate momentous moments in our national life. And I'm sure I can add a few more puns to our deliberations today. This bill will do this by changing the procedure for licensing hours extensions in England and Wales so that these measures are subject to the negative procedure rather than the affirmative procedure, as is currently the case. Before proceeding into more detail, I want to pay tribute to my honourable friend, the Member for South Shields, who brought forward this bill in the last Parliament when it enjoyed wide support across this House, only for it to fall when Parliament was dissolved for the general election. I am pleased to be carrying forward the work that she started. I would also like to thank everyone who supported the bill, particularly those who have come to the House today, and to all who attended my drop-in last week in collaboration with the British Beer and Pub Association and UK Hospitality. It's important to start talking about our pubs and hospitality industry, something which I can claim to know a thing or two about, having had a 30-year career in it before coming to this place. Pubs and other venues are so much more than just businesses. They are often a focal point of our communities from one generation to the next, and where we gather for life's big and small moments. They are also fundamental to community cohesion. 2/3 of adults believe that our local pubs are vital to combat loneliness and social isolation, according to a survey by YouGov in 2024. It will come to the surprise of no one here today that I believe it is in Wrexham where the finest pubs and beers can be found. In no particular order, great pubs such as South Serron, the Acton Park, the Nag's Head, the Red Lion in Mark Wheel, the Crown in Fly, the Quarry Arms, the Buck in Bangor-on-Dee, the Cunliffe Arms, the George and Dragon in Brumbo, the Golden Lion in Clwyd Pwyth, and the King's Mill. And I'll stop there. That's just a name. That's to name just a few of the seven. Of course I will.
Thank you to my own friend for giving way, and I'm delighted to hear he now has at least, I think that was 12 free drinks that he's going to be receiving in his constituency. Will he agree with me as well about the importance of community-owned and operated pubs in the area and the additional social value that they can provide to local communities and to groups?
Before Mr Ranger returns to his feet, I should obviously reference all the fantastic pubs in Sussex Weald. Andrew Ranger.
Thank you. Yes, I absolutely agree with my honourable friend, and thank you for that intervention. And I get the feeling we're going to get a lot of pubs named today. So that was just to name just a few of the 78 pubs that span across my constituency. I will not comment on how many of them I've personally paid a visit to, possibly more than once. Hospitality is also vital to tourism in Wrexham. It contributes nearly £120 million to our local economy, and I know similar will be true for other members' constituencies. Since the arrival of two well-known Hollywood actors to Wrexham, we have welcomed visitors from far afield, eager to see the home of Wrexham AFC at the world-famous racecourse ground, and of course be poured a pint by landlord Wayne at the turf. There's another one. Accommodating this recent influx of visitors would never have been possible without pubs, cafes and restaurants and hotels stepping up to the plate. And I know this is the case across Britain, where dedicated staff work hard, delivering great service, food and drink to customers. I thank them for all they do all year round. Section 172 of the Licensing Act 2003 provides the ability for the Home Secretary to make an order extending licensing hours on a blanket basis, thereby allowing all licensed premises to open for longer at moments of important celebration.
Will my honourable friend give way?
Of course I will.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Daily Telegraph newspaper recently visited my constituency of Watford to interview people to report on the status and progress of the new Labour government. Now, this piece was largely conducted by interviewing people residing within or emerging from the Moon Under the Water public house in Watford High Street. Has my honourable friend considered the implications of these proposals on the ability to do such easy journalism in constituency?
Andrew Ranger.
Thank you. I haven't considered that, but it's a very valid point. It's a very, very valid point, and I thank him for his intervention. So such orders provide the additional benefit of providing a boost to the hospitality sector. Blanket licensing hours extensions introduced by the Secretary of State that businesses do not have to apply for individual extensions should they wish to stay open longer to celebrate a particular event. Under normal circumstances, venues would have to apply for a temporary event notice, which costs £21 per application and considerable administration work. This bill will therefore have the twofold impact of saving businesses both time and money, and also means local licensing authorities avoid the strain of being required to process large numbers of individual applications, possibly at very late notice. Licensing hours extensions in England and Wales have been implemented on occasions, including royal weddings and jubilees, as well as for major sporting events, such as when the men's England football squad reached the finals of the Euros in 2020 and 2024. These events bring us together to share in these occasions, the joy of them, and also perhaps the inevitable trauma of when England lose on penalties again. Or the anticipated jubilation of when Wales reaches the World Cup final. And of course the day when Wrexham reached the FA Cup final. There is generally less of an urgent issue with royal events, for which more notice is generally available. The situation is much more complicated when it comes to sporting events, when it is only a matter of a few days' notice of a team reaching a semi-final or final. Unfortunately, this has led to times when it has not been possible for the government to extend licensing hours for significant occasions. Of course I will.
As we're in the business of name-checking, I'm delighted to say that after a period of closure, lamentable closure, the Half Moon and Seven Stars in Preston, the village that I live in, will be reopening its doors, celebrating, I think, Pub's Day today, at 5 o'clock tonight. Neither he nor I are going to be there, unfortunately. But more seriously, the implications of this are very considerable for an industry that's been under very great pressure for a long time, particularly since COVID. And is it not the case that it is quite extraordinary that these hoops have to be jumped through in order to do what most people would regard as normal and sensible?
Andrew Ranger.
Thank you. I thank him for his intervention, and I absolutely agree 100%. And this is what this bill seeks to do, basically. So, and also I join him in celebrating the reopening of his the pub in his where he lives, the area where he lives. So, as I was saying, Madam Deputy Speaker, there have been times when the government haven't been able to extend licensing hours for significant occasions. This is, as I've said, this is due to the fact that the required orders are subject to the affirmative procedure, which means that both Houses of Parliament need to approve the order following a debate. And as such, if Parliament is in recess, it is simply not possible to introduce such an order. A recent instance of this was when the Lionesses reached the final of the World Cup in August 2023. This was during a parliamentary recess, meaning it was not possible for the government to extend the hours for that momentous match. And as a result, pubs and hospitality venues missed out on what was an historical and unforgettable occasion. With the continued sporting success of our national teams on the world stage, it is also my hope that we will see more occasions in the near future when such a need arises, with events such as the upcoming FIFA Men's World Cup in 2026 in North America, the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia, the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2027 in Brazil, and the ICC T20 World Cup in 2026 in India and Sri Lanka. And in the interests of parliamentary sportsmanship, we all want to see successes for our Scottish and Northern Irish teams too. Yeah. I am sure that members across the House will recognise the tough hand that the pub and hospitality sector has been dealt over recent years. At the end of July 2024, the total number of licensed premises in Britain was just 99,000, 45,000 of which were pubs. And the number of licensed premises has plummeted by 30% over the last 20 years, and we have lost 25% of pubs since then, since 2003. We should use our roles as parliamentarians in this place and the opportunities that this place affords us to speak on behalf of our industry. And it is for this reason that I believe it is important that we are here today.
Hear, hear.
Hospitality is not only crucial for local economies, but for local opportunity. The sector supports over 1 million jobs and provides great career opportunities and flexible working in all parts of the UK. I know from first-hand experience you can go from washing pots to running the place. I would also like to take the opportunity to address any concerns members may have about any reduction in parliamentary scrutiny. In the past, these orders have attracted no controversy or dissent, and I would expect that to remain the case. Indeed, it is hard to imagine any honourable member objecting to an extension of licensing hours for, say, a royal wedding. For that reason, I believe that the negative resolution procedure is entirely appropriate. Let me be clear also that this bill does not take away the right to seek a debate, and if any members of this House, or indeed the other place, did object to a certain extension, they would still have the ability to pray against it. I can also reassure the House that this amendment to the parliamentary process is the only change which this bill seeks to make. It does not change the fundamental mechanics of how licensing hours extensions operate and are decided upon. These will still be determined on a case-by-case basis by the Secretary of State and will only be introduced if the event in question is, and I quote, an occasion of exceptional international, national or local significance. And the word exceptional is important here. The bill also does not alter the process for temporary event notices. I believe the bill speaks for itself. It is a small amendment to the Licensing Act that will have a big effect by allowing for more efficient use of Parliament's valuable time. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a simple but significant measure. I am grateful to all colleagues for their support today and in the lead-up to today. So let us raise a glass to our pubs and hospitality industry when I commend this bill to the House.
Yeah. The question is that the bill be now read a second time, and I call Mr Richard Holden.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and I will try and be brief today. I'd like to begin by thanking the honourable member for bringing forward this important bill. Pubs are incredibly important places, more than just to enjoy a drink. They are at the heart of local communities up and down the country, bringing people together in a truly unique way, something which I think is ever more important in this modern world. The sector is also an integral part of our cultural heritage, but there's also a significant contributor to our economy, with over 1 million people, or almost 1 million people working in it, and like himself, I started my working life in licensed premises as well. From traditional pubs in Basildon and Billericay, like the Checkers on Billericay High Street, to the more modern Beehive in Basildon, to the bar at the Langdon Community Centre, to the tap room at the Billericay Brewery. Local pubs across our communities come in all shapes and sizes, and hard-working landlords, owners and staff make these local institutions what they are. Our pubs have been facing a tough time, and during the last Parliament, I won the Parliamentarian of the Year from the APBG group on beer for my work to push forwards on the draft beer duty relief. And I think this is another important, small but important step to help our pubs. It is limited and sensible, and simplifying this process just to allow those pubs to open for those key moments that bind our country together, whether it's a national celebration or sporting event or a royal wedding, I think is just a very sensible step forwards. There are obviously bigger factors to decide whether pubs in this country stay open or not, and today is not the day to go into VAT, national insurance, etc. But through this bill, I think the honourable gentleman presents this House with a real opportunity to make a meaningful difference and support our pubs in an immediate and practical way for the future. The Licensing Hours Extension Bill is a targeted measure just to allow our pubs to remain open during those moments which really can instil national pride in our country and bring us together in our public houses. Let's support it, work towards a thriving and resilient pub sector.
Yeah. Jill Jervin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Wrexham, on his private member's bill, and I'm proud to be a named supporter. As a Welsh MP, I know that few things unite Welsh people quite like supporting our rugby and football teams. Love for our local pubs runs deep. Places like the Makey in Kimmel Bay, the Mason's Arms in Denbigh and the station in Colwyn Bay are vibrant hubs of our communities, bringing people together during moments of national significance. This bill builds on that important role, ensuring communities can gather for major events while boosting local economies. I'm sure that we've all heard from the hospitality sector in our constituencies about the challenges they faced, particularly in recent years. The hospitality industry is a fundamental part of Welsh culture, and in Clwyd North, it is vital to our economy. Yet, pubs are closing at concerning rates across the UK, with licensed premises down 30% in the last 20 years. More needs to be done to encourage tourism in smaller pockets of the country, like mine. And in my view, supporting our pubs is a crucial step in this support. This bill would bring locals and visitors together in North Wales during times of significant national sporting events, be it football, rugby or more. I am proud to champion Welsh Rugby Union games in Parc Eirias in my constituency. I believe it's vital we support these games in North Wales, and this bill allows us more opportunity to celebrate successes together locally. To be clear, this bill is not about diminishing local authority control, but ensuring fairness and efficiency when large-scale events call for a national approach. Coming from a local authority background myself, I know that the provisions in this bill would ease pressures on councils and their licensing committees. This is a common sense proposal. It will unite communities, bolster the hospitality sector and reduce unnecessary bureaucracy. I urge members across this House to back this bill.
Claire Hughes. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I am absolutely delighted to be supporting the licensing hours extension bill, which has been brought forward by my honourable friend, the member for Wrexham. He's a great champion for pubs and for the hospitality trade, particularly in our communities in North Wales. As a fellow member of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Beer and the All-Party Group for Hospitality, I am very well aware of the vital roles that pubs play in our local economies. In my own constituency of Bangor and Aberconwy, we're proud to have 119 pubs and 3 breweries. And like my honourable friend, I haven't visited all of them yet, but I am dedicated to working on it. Pubs in Bangor and Aberconwy support 2,000 local jobs, many of them filled by young people, getting their first taste of the world of work and learning valuable life skills. So it's my turn to do some name checking. Pubs like the Union in Bangor, the Albion in Conwy and the King's Head in Llandudno. They play a vital role in our communities too, bringing people together over a pint and no more so than during our national sporting events. Madam Deputy Speaker, June the 5th, 2022 was a very special night. It's the night that Gareth Bale scored a 34th minute screamer to secure Wales' place in the World Cup finals for the first time since 1958. My whole family watched that match and it was absolutely brilliant. Wales flags everywhere, kids everywhere. When he scored, beer everywhere too. I'll never forget it. So while my national team's fortunes might have taken a bit of a turn since then, I am very hopeful that if the bill progresses, it will make it easier for pubs and clubs across Wales to bring people together all over again to watch Wales in the World Cup finals in the USA in 2026. I did think that I might be pushing my luck with that, but given that the honourable member has mentioned it, I think he will agree that that would in turn be an event of exceptional national significance and something that we would all want to support. In all seriousness, this bill will make it easier for pubs to bring people together, celebrate national events, support the sector and streamline the process while staying true to the spirit of the Licensing Act. And I sincerely hope that members from both sides of the House will join me in supporting it.
Mike Reader.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, Northampton has a fantastic and varied hospitality sector, and this bill will support local businesses across Northampton South. There are over 30 pubs in my constituency alone, employing nearly 1,500 people. And I've been very fortunate to visit a number of them over the years, and now as a parliamentarian have visited a number on constituency visits, including, I was going to get my list in as well, the Deers Leap in Bellinge, the last community pub in the Eastern District, the Pomfret Arms, which has just reopened after being closed through some disastrous flooding from the River Nen. The Britannia, where I pulled my first pint on camera, and I think it's safe to say I will never make a good barman. And the White Hart in Great Houghton, which is part of the Everard Brewery Group. And actually, I started my career in construction working for Pick Everard, who were the family within the Everard family, so a group that's close to my heart. Northampton is also home to a number of breweries, famously Carlsberg, served here in the house, but also Phipps Brewery, which serves pubs across our region. And of course, if I'm going to contribute to this debate by talking about pubs that will benefit from this bill, I should give a special mention to my local, The Artisan, which resides just over the border in the neighbouring constituency of my very good friend, the Honourable Member for Northampton North. The licensing hours extension bill may sound technical to my constituents, but it's at its heart, it's about something far more important. The minor amendments proposed to this legislation will mean that no matter whether Parliament is sitting or not, a decision can be made nationally to change licensing hours. And as has been noted, this means during major sporting events, hours can be changed, which is great news for the thousands of rugby and football fans in my town who will follow Saints and Cobblers players when they're called up for national duty.
On that point, I think we heard from the Honourable Friend that the Lionesses game couldn't be extended in terms of the licensing because of the problems that the current system created because Parliament wasn't sitting. I think these changes in this bill, would you agree, gives us the flexibility to ensure that occasions like that won't be missed and fans can watch the game in our pubs whilst supporting our pubs, but also that we have an opportunity today to legislate or to progress legislation in relation to safety of fans in another way. My private member's bill is at 15 on the list, which will legislate to prevent...
Beautifully made. Mike Leader.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing your private member's bill come forward, a much-needed piece of legislation. But as I was saying, and just to finish, the British Beer and Pub Association backs this change to the law because they know it's what the industry needs. And as a proud member, along with others in the House of the APPG for beer and the APPG for hospitality and tourism, I know it's what we need too. So this bill is about helping our pubs and communities continue the proud tradition of celebrating British success together, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Yeah. I call Nesil Caliskan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the member for bringing the licensing hours extension bill. A small change, but I think it will make a really big difference to our communities. There are a few principal reasons why I support this. The first, as others have said, it allows us to bring communities together at moments of national importance. And we know that because of that, our communities think that this is absolutely a common sense change that they would welcome, and in many instances they can't believe the process that exists at the moment. So I think that across the country, certainly my constituents of Barking, they would welcome this relatively minor change so that they too can support their local hospitality areas in bringing communities together and marking those occasions. Secondly, I think it will have a material impact in a positive way for our local hospitality sector, pubs and others too, restaurants, cafes, and we know from our local businesses that above everything else, flexibility, particularly for those very small businesses, is what they seek, so that they can be adapt their businesses and take up any opportunity for further income to support their balances, but also to play a part on our high streets and town centres. So I think this change will bring flexibility. I have 65 different hospitality spots in my constituency in Barking. They employ almost 1,000 people, make a contribution of over £50 million. These small steps can have a real big difference for them, and I'm pleased to be able to support it. And finally, I think it will relieve pressure on overstretched local authorities up and down the country. We know that councils talk about the burden of red tape, not just for the local business, but for themselves as an organisation. And this will make sure that not only is parliamentary time spent well, but I think we will relieve the additional pressures or existing pressures that exist on councils. For that, Madam Deputy Speaker, I very much will support the proposal.
And I'll come to the front benches and the Shadow Minister, Mr Matt Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is a pleasure to speak in this debate, and I thank the Honourable Member for Wrexham for bringing this bill before us today. I'd also like to commend the Honourable Member for South Shields, who kindly led a version of the bill through the last House before untimely events curtailed its progress. Speaking of untimely events, I think we can all agree on the collective disappointment felt when a pub is closed or unable to show an important sporting event. Hospitality venues up and down the country will, I'm sure, welcome this legislation as an opportunity to provide certainty that they'll be able to open for significant events. At this point, I must declare an interest as a regular patron of Stockton West pubs. Stockton West has some of the best pubs in the country. No, has the best pubs in the country. I know they always welcome the opportunity to stay open a little bit later when circumstances allow. As has been referenced already, when the England women's football team progressed to England's first World Cup final since 1966, the request to extend licensing hours came in late and during a parliamentary recess. This made it impossible to grant the request, though through Parliament, denying many businesses the opportunities to extend their licences and punters the chance to gather and show their early morning support. Ensuring that the government can make this change swiftly while retaining the necessary safeguards is a sensible and measured approach. Hopefully it will resolve the issues governments have faced in the past and allow changes to be made when needed. While it may be unlikely, I remain hopeful that one day the mighty Stockton town will take advantage of these changes with a future appearance late in the evening during a Champions League final. In the meantime, while I might have to wait a while for that, I express our support for this change and look forward to taking advantage of it in the next international tournament.
I call the Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I feel quite intoxicated by the number of local licensed premises that have been mentioned this morning in the House. It must have set some record, I think. But I do want to start, first of all, by congratulating my honourable friend, the member for Wrexham, on his success in the ballot for private members' bills. Something in the 20 years that I have been a member of this House, I have never been successful in. So I also want to congratulate him on his decision to pick this very worthwhile topic as the subject of his bill today. And I want to recognise my honourable friend's long career in the hospitality sector and his clear expertise in this area. And I have to say as well, I am incredibly impressed with the detailed knowledge of licensed premises in honourable members' constituencies up and down the land. And I note also the mention of the APPG on beer, which is obviously a very important group in this place and has a large and thriving membership. Now, I am also grateful to the contributions of other honourable members who have participated in this debate, and I note the comments of the honourable member for Basildon and Billericay, who also has a great deal of experience in pubs, I think it's fair to say, and my honourable friend, the member for Clwyd North, who talked about the Welsh perspective, and my honourable friend, the member for Bangor and Conwy, who I admire her determination to visit all her local pubs, my honourable friend for Northampton South, who I enjoyed hearing about his constituency being the home of certain brewing companies, and my honourable friend, the member for Barking, who reminded us about the importance to restaurants and cafes and the high street from what's being proposed in this bill. And she talked about the 65 hospitality sites in her constituency and the 1,000 people employed. So I am really pleased to say that there has been a high degree of consensus on this measure, and I can say right from the outset that this government supports the bill and will do what we can to facilitate its passage both in this House and the other place. And I would also just like to pay tribute to the work of my honourable friend for South Shields, who led on this issue in the last Parliament and managed, I think, to successfully get it through this place, but unfortunately the general election intervened before it could make its way onto the statute books. Now, my honourable friend has set out in his excellent speech a compelling case for his private member's bill. Section 172 of the Licensing Act 2003 already makes provision for the Secretary of State to make an order which relaxes licensing hours in England and Wales for an occasion of exceptional international, national or local significance. In practice, the Home Secretary determines whether an occasion meets these criteria on a case-by-case basis, and any orders that are brought specify the dates and times of the relaxations. These orders bring about benefits, firstly, as we've heard, to businesses, which can stay open for longer and thus increase revenue. Secondly, to communities, who are able to come together to celebrate important events. And thirdly, to licensing authorities, who do not have to process large numbers of individual licence extensions, often in a very limited time period. Of course, it is for individual businesses to decide whether they wish to take advantage of any extension. But if businesses do wish to stay open, a blanket licensing extension automatically means that individual businesses do not have to give a temporary event notice to their local authority, saving them time as well as the associated fee. Very happy.
Thank you to the Minister for giving way. I welcome this bill as a former licensing board member, and pubs in Falkirk certainly would have benefited from these extensions during the Euro 2020, Euro 2024 finals, as well as the World Cup final in 2023, and I declare an interest as a member of the Tartan Army. We need to recognise hospitality workers as well within the extension of this bill. Would the Minister like to endorse the Get Me Home Safely campaign by Unite, encourage businesses who are going to benefit from this extension to make sure their staff get home safely?
Absolutely. My honourable friend makes a very important point about making sure that those who work in hospitality are well protected, and that getting home is an important part of that duty that employers have to keep their workforce safe. If I just continue to explain the position around these orders, in the past, as we know, licensing hours have been relaxed for high-profile royal events. This includes His Majesty the King's coronation, Her late Majesty the Queen's 90th birthday and her Platinum Jubilee, as well as the royal weddings in 2018 and 2011. Licensing hours have also been extended for sporting events, including the FIFA World Cup 2014, the Euro 2020 final and the Euro 2024 semi-final and final. When the government has previously extended licensing hours, the proposed extensions have received cross-party support in both houses and passed unopposed. And as we've heard, the Licensing Act currently specifies that any order is subject to the affirmative parliamentary procedure and needs to be approved in both Houses of Parliament before it comes into force. This bill proposes to amend the Licensing Act so that these orders are subject to the negative resolution procedure rather than the affirmative procedure. This will enable extensions to be implemented at short notice, if necessary, including when Parliament is in recess. With the current arrangements, it means that fast-paced extensions are simply not always possible, which is problematic in the context of sporting events, where the participation of national teams in the later stages of competitions is uncertain until the last moment. To illustrate this, in 2021, the England men's team made it through to the final of the delayed Euro 2020 tournament. With the help of the usual channels, the previous government managed to push through an order through Parliament in the 3 days between the semi-final and the final. And just to emphasise my earlier point, there was complete agreement across the House in support of the measure. But in the summer of 2023, the England women's team, equally commendably, reached the final of the World Cup. However, that tournament took place in the summer and Parliament was in recess, so sadly, therefore, it was not possible to extend licensing hours for this match. This bill will rectify this issue and ensure that licensing hours can be extended at short notice when necessary, including when Parliament is in recess. Yes, very happy to.
Does it not share my concern that this is a bill of very limited ambition? From what she's been saying, surely there's a very strong case for deregulating the whole of this area and for getting Parliament and the government out of the hair of the hospitality business.
Well, I think what we have before us today is a very straightforward, simple measure, and it seems to me from the debate we're having in the House that there is widespread agreement on that, and I'm hoping that the honourable gentleman, or right honourable gentleman, may, in this case, not cause any problems to this bill going forward. So, as I was saying, that this bill will rectify the issue that we've been discussing, it should also be noted that this bill will streamline the parliamentary process, and it does not seek to alter the fundamental contents of the Licensing Act. Having said that, I just want to be clear that the government fully intends to make sure that we plan ahead, so that wherever possible, licensing hours extension orders in England and Wales can be brought with time for full public consultation. The power in Section 172 of the Licensing Act has been used sparingly, and rightly so, and I want to be clear that there is no intention to change the frequency with which the relevant powers are invoked. I also feel it's important, as the Minister for Policing, Fire and Crime Prevention, to make clear that the police have generally been supportive of extensions for royal events and that there have been no major increases in crime and disorder attributable to temporary extended drinking hours. However, the police have previously expressed some concerns about licensing extensions relating to sporting events, namely football. It's therefore of the utmost importance that the police have the opportunity to put forward their views, and we would always give due weight to any concerns raised before pressing ahead with an extension of licensing hours. The government also recognises the importance of providing the police with ample time to put in place any additional policing measures that may be necessary to minimise any potential increase in crime and disorder as a result of any temporary licensing hours extension. To that end, Government remain firmly committed to continuing to plan in advance wherever possible. So, in conclusion, I would once again like to thank my honourable friend for bringing forward this legislation and for those who have spoken in support. It is a simple measure which will free up parliamentary time and will help the government to continue to support businesses and local authorities and allow for celebrations of important events in the life of the nation. The government fully supports this bill, and I think it is just very important to get this bill passed before last orders.
With the leave of the House, I call Andrew Ranger to wind up.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and with the leave of the House. I want to thank all members for their contributions today, and also for what seems to be the broad consensus of support across the House. I think I thought I knew quite a lot about hospitality and a lot about venues across the country, but I've learnt a few more today. And I'm sure to try and visit those if possible. And also like to thank my right honourable friend, the Minister, for her support and her comments as well. In summary, this bill, as has been said, simple, straightforward measure that will enable us to cut out unnecessary administrative burden for businesses, better use of parliamentary time, and allow us to support our hospitality sector. And I trust that all members across the House will be able to support it. Thank you very much.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.